Hey y'all, Jason here with Dirt Race Life. So, in our last run on the new street stock, that was the 6th time we had ran it, we had a little more success with the car. We finished 3rd out of 9, and that was after getting spun midway through the race and then having to come from the back forward again. So I was happy with that. Looking at the car here, trying to kind of figure out where do we go from there. One of the problems we had, we ran the car warm again, and I was very surprised by that because we had initially run the car hot. We built a fan shroud, did an episode on that, and then like we were 190 after that. And so then we turn around, and I've been racing at a local track, and we've been running the car hot time after time, and I'm getting debris buildup in my radiator like crazy just every time we go out. Of course, the track that conditions had been where that there was a lot of loose material and stuff going on, but this last time we raced, I felt like the track really didn't have a lot of loose material. We still filled this radiator up with debris. Got to really looking at it and trying to go through everything to make sure that we were absolutely optimal. Made a few changes. Got on the phone with Jones. I've got a Jones pulley system on here, and I discussed with them my RPM range. I'm turning this engine about 7 to 7,200 RPMs, but the pulleys that I had on it were really for a crate engine where I'm only turning, 62, 6,400 RPMs. So I got them to send me a couple more pulleys, swapped them out where it slowed the fan and the power steering pump down because I kept hearing the belt squealing at high RPMs. And what it was is I think the engine was just overpowering the ability for the pulleys to hold, for the belt to be able to hold. So new belts, new pulleys on there to get that water pump slowed down a little bit, get that power steering pump slowed down a little bit. Really what I was after is slowing the water pump down there. Of course, I don't want to blow another power steering pump either, so it's not going to hurt anything. And I was like, but really that shouldn't have been it, and the shroud is right. So like what else could be going on? And I was looking at how I had done this screen in the front. And this was a mistake I made. Y'all know I'm totally honest, totally candid on Dirt Race Life. I had this screen right up against this radiator. And it and a combination of one more thing were working together to cook my engine. Okay, so since the screen was up against the radiator, it was just laying flat against it the whole time. So it was like up against it. You see I've moved it here. But I had this screen zip tied right in here on this tube, and so it's just laying on the radiator. And then the radiator's laid back a little bit too. And I had this real fine sediment buildup all through the front of my radiator here where it was just stopping the radiator up. Washed right out. It was just like almost like loose dust and little specks of dirt that just sat in between all of the fins. And so that was definitely a part of it. Was it laying there? It couldn't flap in the wind. The dirt would hit it. It couldn't fall down. It would just hit. And I think then what would happen is the dirt would just break up and just work through right into the radiator. Believe that's what was going on there. And then my front as well. So Rachel was on the outside of the track videoing, and she was watching. And like after the heat race, Rachel was saying, Jason, we're plowing the right front of the car into the track. We've got to do something. And all of this was still intact and in place. But we turned around and I cranked around into the right front, which put more wedge in the car and stuff. But I was just trying to pick that right front up as quick as I could before we went out for the feature. We didn't have a lot of time to make adjustments, so I just cranked one around into the right front. I don't think it did anything but maybe hurt me in my setup because look, we went out in the feature and we just absolutely tore this valance piece right off this right front of the car. This is related to the radiator, and I think I figured out what's going on. But that in itself is a problem. But then, let me put this down. I did not have my shock marked with a Sharpie for this race, but my O-ring, of course, I had reset it, and I've still got another inch of travel here, which tells me all night long, I never did get this right front down, that last inch, which means that I'm going right where I want to go. I believe the mistake that I'm making here is the bottom of the Dominator nose itself, like on this right front, that's low enough. That's as low as the bottom of someone's valance piece would be. And then I added a valance as well to go all the way down to that Crate Racing USA 5-inch minimum, and I shouldn't have done that. because, you know, you see I'm folding it under here. This is the support piece I folded under. I'm churning the dirt up off the track as well. And not only that, but if I'm physically contacting the track, that's taking load out of the front of my car. So any amount of downforce that I gain by creating that, you know, that vacuum under the car, all of that's gone when I physically contact the track and it's pushing the car back up. So valance on the front has to go. Lesson learned there, y'all. Let's see what else. Oh, check these tires out right here. My buddy Billy Sturgill with A to Z Mobile Services, he sent me a picture and suggested for the H500 this tread pattern right here. This is one that he had been shown that they were doing on their H500s, and I looked at it and I really liked it. And it looks really complicated, but it was not at all. I've done this to all of my tires now, but this D-lug down through here, it's just a cut where I'm separating them out across, and so just I'm running across there, separating out, because this is normally a solid chain all the way around. Separated that out. You see this right front, I went back and did a sipe. That sipe's not very deep. I am running into a problem if you sipe these H500s very deep on this edge right here. You will absolutely tear these when they get hot. So yeah, that sipe right there is only like a 1/16 of an inch deep. So, and matter of fact, look, check it out. See, I've got a little bit of feathering right there from that run on that inside. And that feathering, notice, is on the inside right there, which tells you that I've got a lot of camber in this right front. Otherwise, if I didn't have enough camber, it would be on the outside. And I have got too much, or probably enough, camber, and you see that feathering there on that inside. So that's interesting. Just learned that just now with y'all. I think that this probably is helping. I need to kind of step up my tire game just a little bit. I just had brand new tires on the car when we started out, and I didn't cut them. I didn't do anything with them, just trying to keep it as clean as I could to kind of see what was going on with the car. But yeah, it's time to cut the tires up. So we did that. On my exhaust extensions right here, I did just have like a 12-inch piece coming out from my crossover headers right here. I felt like that I might be able to smooth out the torque curve down low just a little bit more on this engine if I would extend these on out. So I took and added another 15 inches of exhaust tube right here. So I've got, oh, I don't know how much that is, about 20. Let me measure that right quick, y'all. Now I wonder. So let's see here. I've added, how much have I got now total? Let's see, that's about 15 to right there. And then all the way back to the collector point, another 15. So I've got about 30 inches now total of 3-inch tube coming off of my collector point on the headers. So I'm hoping that, like, if I get really slowed down in the corner and I'm down in that 4,000 to 4,500 RPM range, that kind of smooths that out, gives me a good solid torque curve a little bit lower by putting those tubes on right there. We'll see. I may not even be able to notice it, but it can't hurt. Setup wise, little bit of changes at this point. We had cranked one extra round into this right front at the track. So I am going to take that one round right back out, put the setup right back where it was. So always return to what you know, right? So I try to be very careful to make sure that I did exactly one round at the track. So I'm going to do one round here now. Just like that. Lock that back down. Because I did find out, y'all pointed out and I checked, and that jack screw will absolutely move with me having that bearing in there. Got that locked. Okay, and then on the back, a couple of y'all were making comments about raising the back up. And one I really paid attention to, my buddy Chad Thrash, he said, raise the back of that car up, Jason. I pay attention to what Chad says. Chad's won a lot of races. Chad's built a lot of cars. So we had lowered it some, and I was trying to get it figured out, like with the chain and everything. I think I know what to do. All right, so I've got 3.5 inches of chain allowance on the left rear. When I pick the car up, I've got 3.5 inches. I'm gonna raise the back of this car up, you know, another inch, but I'm gonna make sure that I've still got that 3.5 inches, just like I did on that left rear. So we're just gonna change the rake of the car. I'm turning both rear jack screws the exact same amount. where that we don't mess with the scale numbers at all. We're going to keep the bite where it is. We're going to keep the percentages and everything right where they're at. We're just going to raise the back of the car. I got the back raised up. I think I've got the scale numbers the same as they were. I corrected the chains where it wouldn't get bound up. Changed the tires out on the back. Let's go race, y'all. Well, we made it to a racetrack. We're at Camden Speedway in Camden, Tennessee. It's been raining here. It's been raining here on us in the pits. I don't know if we're going to get the race in or not, but regardless, we're going to try to get what laps we can. It's going to be a real low car count, but practice, work on setup, figure out what's going on, work on driving, you know. This is definitely a momentum track. So tonight, the agenda is drive the car momentum style. Let's see what we can do. Well, we had a little shower come through, pull the car back in, but they're going to try to get the show in tonight. We're waiting. It's quit raining. Now the question is going to be whether or not we get the track roll back down. We'll see. Fingers crossed, right? Yep. But as far as lap times go, I was still a half a second slower than the fastest guy. So yeah, not fast enough. I was running pretty deep, you know, and the track was really hooked up, but I don't think I was quite on the right line. But the car felt great. I think I was just not driving the car exactly the right way to get the fastest lap time there. I don't think I need to do anything to the car though, because I mean, it was pretty well drivable. It was hooked up. It wasn't really bogging a lot. I think I probably just had another half a second if I had drove the car better and like run a smoother line. So I'm just gonna leave it alone. Put some tear-offs on, we're gonna go race. advantage on the 01. He was really late on his exit, and I was gaining on him in the corner. I was getting a little better bite. It felt like off the corner than he was, and so I kept on, you know, pulling up. And the way he was running the corner, he was closing the door on me. I did end up getting into his left side of his car. I didn't like door him or anything, but nonetheless, I did get into him. Sorry, Colby. He definitely let me know it because he pounded on my right rear for about 3 laps until I could get away from him. So, yeah, sorry, Colby. But yeah, so, you know, but I had some, my lap times were better. And so then I was able to kind of get the car sorted out, get in clean air, pull forward. Wasn't no way I was going to run Brent down. Haven't had a chance to look at lap times to see if I was turning a better lap time than Brent or the same lap time as Brent. But that track slicked off a little bit where it wasn't as heavy hooked up. Car definitely got better. Leaving the car alone, I had to switch out the left rear. I've got a little more stagger in the back of the car now. That might hurt me a little bit, but it's the left rear I've got for the car, so you gotta go with what you gotta go with. Other than that, I just put fuel in it, set all the air pressure back to correct it. We're gonna go racing the feature here, y'all. I was really happy with how the car performed last night. I felt like that I had the suspension on the car working the way it's supposed to work for the first time on that car last night. It was pretty good at Clay Hill on my 6th run, but like when I got into that feature race last night and I was in that heat, I could tell that the car suspension was working. I could tell that when I would enter the corner correctly, you know, that I could get the car to like hike up on the left side. It seemed like that it was a string hook to the car and I could just roll into the throttle, you know, and I'm like, okay, this is definitely the way this car is supposed to be drove. But I couldn't do it consistently. I think there's work for me now to just continually, you know, stay on that same setup and, you know, get those habits built, learn how that this car, it likes to be driven that momentum style. You know, and me coming from years in leaf spring cars, I am so bad about wanting to get into that, driving it in deep, you know, and then, you know, turning the car suddenly and then, you know, depending on horsepower and drive to get off that corner. And for some of these tracks like Camden, that just does not work for Camden Speedway at all. It goes like, even with all that rain, it ended up going black slick, but it seemed like that the car was just fine with that. I could feel it scotching up, you know, and hooking into that black. I think that as far as, like, for example, the number 12, he was on the inside line for at least 7 or 8 laps, you know, and I could see him over there, and he was just creeping forward, creeping forward, creeping forward. And he didn't have as much motor as I did, but he was very consistent on hitting that entry, and I mean, he was just smooth as butter. And so eventually, you know, he passed me and everything, earned it, good for him. So, like, I'm looking at this, and I'm watching the video footage this morning while I'm editing and everything, and I'm like, that car's perfect. I just need to focus on driving it correctly to take advantage of it. You know, so I'm going to go, you know, right back on the scales. I'm going to make sure that I've got all my measurements and everything wrote down. I'll, of course, put that on my website, dirtracelife.com, you know, as soon as I get all of those new numbers and stuff. But basically what it boils down to is I've got that front end down lower than I have been running it, you know, and then turn around and I've got that rear end raised all the way up that I can. Matter of fact, I've got like the right rear corner at like 40 inches and the left rear corner is at like 41, and then when I get in the car it drops down to about 40. So I'm like right on it as far as like how much rake I can get in the car without having to start altering the body panels and stuff to go further. But it looks right. I'm leaving it alone. It may be that the next time we run this car is at the Street Stock Nationals. What I'm hoping is these first 7 runs that we've made on this new car, y'all have seen me make a lot of errors. I have went the wrong way on the setup. I have changed things. It didn't work out, but then made some corrections and some changes that are working out. And so if you're running a street stock or any type of race car and that's been helpful to you to see me do it wrong and right sometimes, well, that's what I'm after. And I appreciate, you know, the feedback in the comments. To be honest, some of these corrections are specifically because y'all are watching the videos, leaving comments, and helping me to improve this. And at this point, I definitely feel like we have improved the situation. So thank you. If you're not subscribed, hey, this is good stuff, y'all. Hit the subscribe button. I will see you next time.